Hi guys, Imayful here, welcome to my new video. Today I'll address the new enemies released in patch 2.2, the Rifthound and the Rifthound Whelp. These weird looking wolves can be found in Surumi Island, which has also been released in the new patch. Let me start by saying that both these two types of opponents have deadly offensive capabilities, and while their HP pools might not be massive, their movement pattern can make them tough to put down. In this video, I'll analyze their main details, their attack patterns, how they affect some of the characters we have in the game, how they synergize with other type of opponents, and their weaknesses. First of all, both have the unique trait to apply bleed with all their attacks. Bleed functions similarly as the corrosion effect we can find in 2.1 Abyss Floor 11, with the difference that the stacks don't get applied when you kill opponents, rather when you get hit. Shields don't block the bleed effect, although they still stop the base attack. When this status is applied on your active character, the remaining allies on the team will also receive it. Bleed causes a gradual HP loss for all the affected characters, based on their max HP. Just like corrosion, multiple bleed effects can be stacked on top of each other, amplifying the effect's damage. While you don't need to worry about one or two stacks, you definitely don't want to overlook the massive impact 6 or 7 stacks might have on your team. Also, inactive characters stop receiving bleed damage after their HP falls below 15%, and each stack has a duration of roughly 10 seconds. Both the Rifthounds and the Rifthound Whelps are pretty balanced in terms of resistances, as they boast 25% and 20% resistances across the board respectively. However, all of these wolves have an element type, and when hit with attacks whose element matches theirs, they enter a state that grants them increased offensive power, but less resistance for that specific element. As of right now, only Geo and Electro wolves are in the game. Now, let's take a look at the opponent's attack patterns, starting from the Rifthound Whelps. Don't let their puppy appearance fool you, as their moves can be quite dangerous. They have 3. The first one is a close-range double strike attack, which has a quite wide horizontal hitbox. In my opinion, the most dangerous one due to its short charge time, which makes it hard to predict. The only way to consistently evade it is timing a dash well. The second one is a long-range dash followed by a strike, a linear blow with noticeable charge time, which makes it much easier to evade than the double strike. The third is their signature move, the teleport strike, which allows them to disappear from their current position and appear behind you to strike right after. While this might seem threatening, it's a move that's only hard to dodge if you don't notice its activation, since it's quite slow and you can evade it even by dashing right before the hound appears behind you, giving you a huge dodge window. Their decisive weakness is how easy it is to stagger them, as most of your attacks will cause a noticeable flinch. They also have almost no resistance to anemo grouping effects, meaning you can easily group all of the whelps you're facing together and stagger them simultaneously. Their HP bars roughly matches miniatures, so a decently amped elemental burst can one-shot them all. Damage-wise, they're on the low side as a baseline, but since the bleed damage is fixed and can become really dangerous, you want to dodge all of their attacks. Specifically, the close-range double strike applies 2 stacks, and since it's the most difficult one to dodge, it potentially means trouble. Regarding the Rifthounds, aka the leaders of the pack, since they're just grown-up Rifthound Whelps, their moveset is just a different version of the attacks that I listed for the puppies. This doesn't necessarily mean that their attacks are stronger, but their damage is definitely higher. The good news is that their close-range attack is much slower, although it has an even wider range. The long range dash is more problematic, as it's a sequence of 3 dashes instead. Singularly, they're easy to dodge since they're near, but it still means you have to waste stamina for each one. The teleport attack is similarly quick, but when they appear, they attack with their tail, which has a much larger hitbox, so you will have to pay a bit more attention to these. Additionally, they have much better control of their element, as the Geo Rifthound races in the air and casts a Geo Bullet which chases you around for a bit, and the Electro Rifthound casts an Electro Disc with similar offensive characteristics. Both are quite easy to dodge. While they're not as easy as Rifthound Whelps to stagger, they're still affected by particularly heavy hits you can stop their moves with. In similar fashion, grouping-wise they only get affected by very strong pulls like Kazuha E, while they generally don't care about Venti's Q. They have 3 times more HP than the Whelps, so as a whole they're definitely tougher to put down. In terms of how both of these opponents affect characters in the game, it should go without saying that all shielders are negatively impacted by the Hound's attacks, as they can't offer impeccable protection against them. What's worse is that the shield might make the bleed stacks go unnoticed, as the Hound's attacks generate no visual effect when they hit a shielded character. Mechanically, characters like Ganyu, who have relatively long attack charge time, might have issues facing them, as their chain of attacks is quite tireless and continuous. Ideally, you want to face them with characters who can continuously stagger them and stop their moves. An interesting part about bleed is that in some cases it's actually helpful. For example, you can take advantage of it with Hu Tao to fall under the 50% HP threshold that's required to activate some of her buffs. In turn, bleed really hurts effects that require you to stay above a certain HP threshold, like the Harbinger of Dawn. Team-wide healers are a quite safe bet against the Hounds, but all things considered, you don't necessarily need them unlike for Corrosion, as it's not too problematic to avoid most of their attacks. In terms of opponents' synergies, the most likely pairing we'll see in the Abyss is Rifthound Whelps and Rifthounds together. The obvious threat here is the bleed effects stacking up so much your entire team goes red. Both of them chase you around the area, continuously spamming their attacks, which is a bad thing because you likely won't be able to avoid all of them as they're rather asynchronous. But it's also a good thing because you can group them all in one spot and stagger them easily. Since the first thing you care about here is bleed, the smart thing to do is probably to kill the Whelps first, as they're more fragile and they're more annoying due to their double strike attack. After they go down, it shouldn't be too hard to face even 2 Rifthounds together. For the rest, opponents that trap you like the Hydra Abyss Mage and the Mirror Mage, pull you closer like the Anemo Fachui, or slow you down like Cryo opponents in general, should really be great partners for the Wolves, and horrible news for you, as obstructing your movement capabilities is a great way to make you overlook other attacks coming at you. Well, that's about it for this video. This is the first anime analysis video I made. I believe it's an interesting theme which might make some people understand those little hidden aspects of the game more. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it, and remember to subscribe if you liked the video. See you next time!